So here we go with the answers for this week's music quiz on 2001. Let's get on with it, see how well you did. Okay, the first question, biggest selling single of the year in the UK? Surprisingly, to me, it's Shaggy's It Wasn't Me from his album Hot Shots, which I'm sure you'll be delighted to go out and listen to immediately. I would have gone for Kylie myself, but there you go. So only sold 345,000 copies, biggest selling single of the year, and only sold 345,000 copies. Shows you how singles were falling apart by that time, doesn't it? Okay, so the record of the year was S Club 7's Don't Stop Moving, which will come up again a little bit later. Interestingly enough, the record of the year ran from 1998 to 2012. In the end, as a public thing, it basically turned into a kind of a popularity contest of who was the best known and best liked boy band or of the time. In most cases, 4 times it was won by Westlife, including 2 in a row. I don't know if it would be possible to run a chart or a poll of those years with anybody at this moment in time and have Westlife come up with a single best song of the year. But there you go. Right. Number 3, the Mercury Music Prize. I'm sure many of you got this. Yes, of course, it was PJ Harvey's wonderful Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea that won it in 2001, although I believe it's an album from 2000. If you want to know, and if you don't, tough, I'm going to tell you, it was up against Basement Jaxx, Elbow, Goldfrapp, Gorillaz, Ed Harcourt, Tom McRae, Radiohead, Sushila Raman, Super Furry Animals, Turin Breaks, and 07. That's a pretty damn good collection of albums there, if I say so myself. Okay, pop stars. I'm sure you remembered it was Hearsay with their very imaginatively titled album, Pop Stars. I said to you, I mean, could you remember anything more than their song Pure and Simple? Well, apparently they had 4 top 10 singles, including 2 #1 singles, and they released 2 albums, but didn't last very long. Split up in October of 2002. Apparently citing as the reason for splitting up abuse from the public. Well, there you go. I mean, by that time, famously, Liberty X, the groups of the runners-up, were far more popular and were achieving far more success than them, which is a bit unfair, really, isn't it? It was a public vote they won. But anyway, but yeah, apparently abuse from the public made them split up. Okay, the first Western rock band to play a gig in Cuba. As I said to you, if you think about it, it's not a surprise. It's the Manic Street Preachers. Who else? And their 2001 album, Know Your Enemy there. Apparently Fidel Castro did attend. There is no record of what he made of it, which his favourite song was. A Design for Life, maybe. Okay, let's have a look at these albums. Right, number 6. What have you got there? You've got The Invisible Man, or An Invisible Man, and A Rubber Band, because it's Travis's The Invisible Band, their follow-up to their immensely successful The Man Who. Didn't quite reach the same levels for them. Number 7, Stevie Wonder, you see, and A Load of Land. Wonderland, the Charlatans' Wonderland. Yeah, still going, still producing great albums by that time. Now, what about number 8? Well, this was a very memorable title, or maybe it wasn't. Chocolate Starfish and Hot Dog Flavoured Water. The Limp Bizkit album. Yeah. Apparently called that because Chocolate Starfish, which of course is a reference to the appearance of the back end of a human, supposedly referred to his the way he thought people viewed him. Maybe he was right. And the hot dog flavoured water was apparently an in-joke. What a funny in-joke that must have been. Number 9, that of course is the pop band Blue, and a printer printing off something off. So it is the Blueprints, Jay-Z's fantastic album. We'll come back to that a little bit later. And number 10 was Southern Rock Opera by the Drive-By Truckers. Yeah, the Blueprints was obviously the big breakthrough for Jay-Z at the time. He wasn't very popular. He was awaiting 2 criminal trials, apparently, one for gun possession, and one for assault. He was apparently one of the most dissed rappers at the time. And famously, this was the breakout production for Kanye West, where he first came to prominence. So there you go, an insignificant album. Right, lyrics-wise, how'd you get on with this? First one. Is it just me that this bit... I remembered this bit. The 21 Seconds, of course, was a reference to So Solid Crew, who had produced this song where, of course, I think it was 10 of the group. God, there was about 30 of them, wasn't there? 10 of the group were given 21 seconds to produce a rap verse. And this was by one of the best known ones, Romeo. And I thought this was one of the best remembered ones. I got 21 seconds, then my vocals done, 2 multiplied by 10 plus 1. Whoops, Romeo done. I've got a little problem there in that coming out. Romeo done. There you go. There we are. That was his end. And I just remember that being quoted an awful lot of the time. Right, what about number 12 then? And that, by the way, of course, as you can see there, is from the So Solid Crew album, They Don't Know, which could be worth checking out. Number 12, I've got 2 tickets to Iron Maiden, baby. Come with me Friday, don't say maybe. Is, apologies for this going round all the time like this. I was sure I'd saved that and sorted it in a different way, but never mind. I'm just a teenage dirtbag baby like you, of course. Remember Teenage Dirtbag? It was a huge song then. From their self-titled album, Wheatus. And from the film Loser, which the video was largely made up of, with Mira Sorvino in it, who was, if I said her name right, who was huge at the time after American Beauty, wasn't she? And the guy from American Pie as well was in it. 13, you've got to do much better if you're going to dance with me tonight. You've got to work your what if you're going to dance with me tonight? You've got to work your jelly. Yes, of course, it's Bootylicious by Destiny's Child. From their album, huge album of that year, Survivor, famously samples Stevie Nicks' The Edge of 17, and Stevie Nicks appeared in the video. And Bootylicious got into the Oxford English Dictionary as a result of this song. There you go. Beyonce's impact on the world, eh? Right, so 14, I missed the bus, there'll be hell today. I'm late for work again. Even if I'm there, they'll all imply I might not last a day. And then you call me and it's not so bad. It's not so bad. That's the Dido version of Thank You, which of course was a huge hit because of its inclusion in Eminem's Stan. And that pushed it through. Apparently it had also been used in Sliding Doors the year before, but I mean, despite seeing that film, I hadn't noticed it. But yes, it propelled Dido, that appearance, to stardom, didn't it? And No Angel was a massive album. It was the biggest selling album in the UK of the year. So there we are. Then finally, number 15. Bang, 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 bang. We'll start over again, grow ourselves new skin, get a house in Devon. We all remember Shoddy, drink cider from a lemon. I have no idea why you drink cider from a lemon. Is it something that people did better? I don't know. I don't remember ever doing it myself. Does it give you a kick? Oh. Anyway, it's from the album Echo Park by Feeder. Apparently the song is about getting over a breakup. There you go. Buck Rogers. Okay. Connections. Did you get the connection, or guess it at least, between Level 42, the Monkees, Roxy Music and ELO? Well, It was that they all reformed in 2001. You can see the Monkees without Mike Nesmith, of course, who had far more taste than that, off doing his own stuff and being a terrific songwriter himself. All four of them reformed. Now, in the case of Level 42 and the Monkees, it was about a tour. But Roxy Music and ELO did actually record albums and release them, and quite critically acclaimed ones as well, particularly in the ELO case. ELO's album Zoom was it's often cited as one of their best by many people there, whereas Roxy Music's Concerto also was given some pretty decent reviews. I said it was a film connection between The Killing Moon, Head Over Heels, Notorious and Love Will Tear Us Apart. Do you remember Donnie Darko? What a good film that was. They were all featured in Donnie Darko, which of course famously, well, it's more famous anyway for its rewriting of another Tears for Fears song, a re-recording of that, Mad World, which with Gary Jules, which was a Christmas #1, I believe, this year. So. Number 18, what's the connection between Bob Dylan, Jay-Z, Mariah Carey and Nick Lowe? Well, the connection is that they all released albums on September the 11th, which of course was not a time when people went out buying records, bearing in mind what happened. Bob Dylan's Love and Theft, it's jury's out on whether it suffered from being released on that day. Some said it did, some said it fell apart a little bit, but it still went gold in most countries. Jay-Z's The Blueprint obviously did not suffer in the slightest from it, and became an absolutely massive record there. Mariah Carey's Glitter, the soundtrack to her film, which was also released on that day, was, famously a complete disaster. And of course, there are huge problems herself, didn't she? She ended up in rehab. Or a kind of a health facility, trying to deal with everything falling apart. Because she was so pilloried for that film. And then Nick Lowe's The Convincer, not a big seller, but a terrific album, and one I would definitely recommend to you. 4 albums released on September the 11th with varying degrees of success. Okay, the pitch around. Who have we got here? Number 19, we've got Samantha Mumba. Do you remember her? She was about 17 or 18, 19, somewhere around there at that period of time. When she released, she didn't stay long in the music business, went off and started making films, and went to LA, apparently still over there now, and relatively successful in her own way. Samantha Mumba, yeah. Discovered by Louis Walsh. There you go. Number 20, Old Dirty Bastard. Real name Russell Jones. It's a better name, isn't it? Anyway, poor old Dirty didn't realise he only had 3 years to live at this point. He was going to be dead of a drug overdose in 2004. Of course, came to fame as a member of the Wu-Tang Clan. Number 21, Alicia Keys, who had her real breakthrough with the song and album Fallin' in this year. Classically trained pianist, Alicia was. Alicia Cook, her real name is. I assume the Keys was just a reference to the fact she plays the piano. Well chosen, Alicia. Yeah, still going as we know now. She had a massive #1 later with Jay-Z, didn't she? Apparently she's married to a guy called Swizz. Oh, I just thought that was interesting. Swizz. Okay, Daniel Bedingfield, number 22. Daniel Bedingfield. I remember at the time he hit #1, didn't he? We've got to get through this, and it was a big deal at the time because he recorded the song in his bedroom, on his own computer and his own stuff. Of course, that's nothing now. Most people seem to do that for a lot of their songs, but it was a massive deal at the time. And then, of course, he faded. He had another big hit, didn't he? Which I think might have got to #1. I can't remember, it was a big ballad, wasn't it? And his sister then became huge as well for a little time, and then went off. Apparently he was an X Factor judge in New Zealand, his homeland, for a little while earlier this decade. Number 23 is the appalling Limp Bizkit. I'm sorry if I upset you by that, but it's just true, isn't it? They were awful. Number 24 is Nelly. Remember him with that sticker across his face? Nelly, real name is Cornell Irel Haynes, and apparently, and I found this amazing, is the 4th best-selling rap artist in American history. That's surprising, isn't it? The 4th best-selling rap artist in American history. 25, of course, is Blink-182. Part of the whole explosion of that kind of music at this time, of Green Day and the like, that kind of post-punk type stuff, as they like to call it. Didn't have much in common with punk as far as I could see, but there you go. So there's your picture round. Hope you're doing all right so far, up to number 25. What about this album cover? God, you got to recognise this. This was Amnesiac, of course, from Radiohead. The album taken from the same sessions that Kid A had been produced by the following year. Often unfairly looked at as a kind of like an offshot of it. Apparently, they did look at putting a double album together, but probably quite rightly realised that a double album of that kind of music might have been a little too impenetrable. But there we are. Then we've got the Super Furry Animals with Rings Around the World. Probably, I would say, regarded as their best album. I'd say generally regarded in that way. I mean, obviously, individual people have individual favourites elsewhere, but apparently the NME called it their worst album. That's nice of them. Paul McCartney appears on the album, playing apparently celery and carrot on the song Receptacle for the Respectable. So listen out for that. Of course, that's a reference to him doing the same 30 years earlier on a Beach Boys album. Yeah. Then we have Muse's second album, The Origin of Symmetry. The Muse do like, Matt Bellamy does like his, apparently he's a big conspiracy theorist fan, which used to be kind of like quite a cute thing to say, I think, but not so much now. Apparently it's based around the concept of supersymmetry, coming from a 1994 book by a man called Michio Kaku. The idea, Matt Bellamy explains that having looked at the origin of life, if we discover the origin of symmetry, we will discover whether there's a God or not, apparently, because where the symmetry in the universe comes from, we will discover whether there's a God. Okay, Matt. Number 29 is Spiritualized's Let It Come Down. Cracking album cover. Look at that. I think that's one of the most striking album covers I know. And number 30 is Simple Things, the debut album by 07. Very highly regarded, apart from was it, I can't remember, was it Pitchfork that reviewed it and just basically dismissed it as because it was too similar to Moon Safari, in their opinion. It was just the same kind of music, really. Name That Riff. Did you get these? Number 31. What was number 31 for Name That Riff? It was, looks like I've messed that up again. It was Dancing in the Moonlight from Top Loader. That was everywhere, wasn't it, in 2001? Especially on Jamie Oliver adverts. I seem to remember he was playing it all the time. Dancing in the Moonlight, never mind. Right, number 32. Oh, we're going to have to go around like this again. Number 32, Can't Get You Out of My Head by Kylie Minogue. Again, I'm sure you got that. Kylie's album there. I did mention that Top Loader's album, by the way, was, of course, Onka's Big Mocha, but I think that was a 2000 album. Kylie's album here was also, I think, a 2000 album, because Can't Get You Out of My Head was the second song from it, wasn't it, after Spinning Around? Apparently, I mean, most of you, well, many of you will know that Can't Get You Out of My Head was written by the super songwriter at the time, Kathy Dennis, you know, being a pop star back in the late 80s and turn of the 90s. But this is what I didn't know, and this blew my mind, this. You know, you'd expect to hear that this was written for someone else first, and then they rejected it and Kylie ended up with it. But would you expect to hear it was written for S Club 7? It was S Club 7 this song was intended for. I think probably quite sensibly, Simon Fuller looked at it and thought, don't think this suits them. Passed it on. Apparently it was offered to Sophie Ellis-Bextor as well. She passed on it. And there you go. Kylie took it. And many think of it as one of the great pop songs of the last 20 years. Well, there you are. What about number 33? It was Clint Eastwood by Gorillaz. I know it has that kind of dragging tune going along. from the beginning, but that kind of comes in the middle. Apparently, the song, I'd always thought it was called Clint Eastwood because it had the sound of like a Sergio Leone Western tune or something along those lines. But apparently not. Apparently, the Clint Eastwood reference is the reference to the machismo, the masculinity, because the song's about a kind of a battle between the ego and the spirit. When I looked into it, it went into a lot more depth than that, but I switched off. Anyway, number 34, back comes again, a second reference to Don't Stop Moving from the S Club 7 album Sunshine, which I'm sure you'll be checking out. Don't Stop Moving, of course, a lot of people surprised by it at the time that it was a good song from S Club 7. People were horrible S Club 7, weren't they? Poor people. I didn't know that they'd had to, or they placed Michael Jackson as a songwriter for this song because of its similarity to Billie Jean, which has been admitted by the songwriters, apparently. So there you go. And finally, number 35, Get Your Freak On by Missy Elliott. What a song. What a song and what an album. I strongly recommend you check out Miss E, So Addictive, if you haven't. It's a really terrific album there. And what a song. Stands up beautifully with its whole mix of kind of like Indian influences and whatever to it. Okay, so I hope you did all right on that round. What about your covers? Well, who do we start with? Lady Marmalade. Okay, we started with Christina Aguilera, Lil Kim, Maya, and Pink. Now, I tell you what, I will give you a mark if you just got one of them. If you just say Christina Aguilera, fair enough. Yeah, I don't expect you to get all of those. I mean, I can't remember. Who the hell is Maya? I know the other three. Maya? Don't remember her at all. It's Raining Men. Do you remember that awful cover version? It got to number 1, though, as we said before. It was Geri Halliwell. That was Geri Halliwell from the Spice Girls. Goodness me. Eternal Flame. Have you got to number 1 with the Bangles? Then Atomic Kitten took it to number 1 with essentially just an identical version again. There wasn't much creativity, I have to say, in these cover versions here. Maybe Lady Marmalade made use of Christina Aguilera's voice, but anyway, Atomic Kitten, jury's out. Good name, bad name. I think I'm in the bad name camp. There we are. Number 39. Do you get this? Mambo number 5. Who it was Bob the Builder. I remember he got to number 1 with Can You Fix It? Did you remember he got to number 1 with a version of Mambo number 5? Goodness me. Well, he did. Sorry to bring back those bad memories for you. Can't believe Bob the Builder got 2 number 1s. It's a disgrace, isn't it? Number 40, Uptown Girl, was of course covered by Westlife. That was the comic relief single, I think. It wasn't very comic, of the year. So it was all a charity release as well. There you go. 5 covers all got to number 1, 41. I'm sure you remember this wonderful video, one of the great videos, Weapon of Choice by Fatboy Slim from Halfway Between the Gutter and the Stars and the 2000 album. But this, of course, came out in 2001. A love video, mostly because of the incredible dancing performance by Christopher Walken. Apparently he volunteered this. Big fan, big friend with Spike Jonze, the director. Apparently they grew up together, and he claimed he wanted to do a performance of tap dancing, whatever, while he was still, well, he wasn't too old to do so and show off his dancing skills at the time. And Spike Jonze apparently loved the idea that he was, you get the idea of someone used to playing psychopaths and have them just as a dancer around the place. Great fact about the song, Weapon of Choice, Bootsy Collins is on it. Very impressive. Bootsy Collins, the old Funkadelic man and bassist for James Brown, wasn't he? Okay, 42 is from the Stuck in a Moment That You Can't Get Out Of video by U2, which, if you remember, keeps having Bono being thrown out the back of a van constantly and things turning around. And that is Bono, even if you can't recognise him there. A song, of course, famously written as a conversation, an imagined conversation between Bono and Michael Hutchence, who was a very good friend of his, about the sad death, the suicide of him. Not as many people thought, as a kind of almost black humour reference to the rumour that went around at the time that he died as a result of an accident. I think that was spread by Paul Yates, wasn't it? The autoerotic asphyxiation, and that he got stuck in a moment he couldn't get out of. No, it's not that at all. It's about suicide. It's about a friend committing suicide. Apparently, Bono and Michael Hutchinson had a discussion not long before he died about the stupidity of suicide. Sounds like he didn't listen. 43, of course, is Stan by Eminem from the Marshall Mathers LP, another 2000 LP there. As you can, of course, recognise, that's Dido in the back, who, having had Thank You sampled, was in the video as well. Another one, Stan, that got into the Oxford English Dictionary. A Stan being a kind of slightly deranged stalker. There you go. The effect there. 44, you must recognise the exotic nature of this. This was Destiny's Child again with Survivor from their album Survivor. And then the last one was The Appalling Hero by Enrique Iglesias. Again, sorry if I've upset you there. It's just true though, isn't it? From his album Escape, I'm sure you won't be checking that out. It was a massive song at the time, wasn't it? And that image sticks with you. Anyway, back to the trivia. Tough one, this one, isn't it? It was Nirvana who called Courtney Love irrational, mercurial, self-centered, unmanageable, inconsistent, unpredictable, as they were suing her successfully, as it happens, to have to relinquish her control in the group. This, of course, is surviving members of Nirvana, the two left. So here we are. Number 47, the landmark piece of musical technology, of course, was the iPod. Oh, I love my iPod. It was like everything I ever wanted, you know, the ability to carry around my entire music collection in my pocket. Oh, I was absolutely obsessed with it at the time. Then who knew we'd now be in a place where you don't even need your music collection. It's just, you know, the world's music collection. What I didn't realise was the name was inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's Hal says something about the opening the pod doors, and they took that as their way of opening things up to everybody. Apparently, there you go. Interesting. So that concert for NYC, unsurprisingly, which Paul Simon song would he choose? You might have gone for Bridge Over Troubled Water, but that'd be a bit sickly and sentimental, and that's not Bowie, is it? America, absolutely. They've all come to look for America. He just always seems to get it right, Bowie, doesn't he? And then he followed up with Heroes, as I said before. What about the odd one out here? Okay, well, it's worth looking up this list. It's quite ridiculous at times, the overreaction as far as what type of songs were banned. I mean, I understand, you know, people were in a kind of collective funk really at the time in a lot of cases, and you didn't want to upset them. But no, well, What a Wonderful World was banned. Okay, same as with many other similar kind of songs that suggested it's a wonderful place in the world. It was thought that that would upset people, the idea that the world was a wonderful place. He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother was also banned. I would assume for similar reasons. It seems like the kind of thing you'd want to hear in that situation, but apparently not. Imagine, again, the idea of imagining a good life afterwards, apparently that was banned as well. And so was Walk Like an Egyptian. And I cannot tell you why Walk Like an Egyptian was banned at all. No idea. I am hoping it is not because of some kind of reference to certain parts of the world. Well, we don't know. But unbelievably, Leaving on a Jet Plane was not banned. The Peter, Paul and Mary version was, but John Denver's original was not. Unbelievable, really, isn't it? Okay, and what about the odd one out here? Well, who didn't release an album this year? It was Mel C over there. She released hers the previous year, and in fact it was this year in which she basically said, I'm not going to sing with the Spice Girls again, and effectively broke up the group. Finally, Jerry, of course, had left a while before. The three albums, as you can see here, are Geri Halliwell's Scream If You Want to Go Faster, which, as they produced a couple of number ones, unbelievably. She was huge then, wasn't she? Victoria Beckham's self-titled album, Victoria Beckham. Do you know, there was that famous thing, wasn't there, with Sophie Ellis-Bextor and Groove Rider up against her to see who would get to number one. Would she make it a number one for every single Spice Girl as a solo artist? I cannot remember for the life of me what the name of that Victoria Beckham song was. Can't remember it at all. And Emma Bunton with A Girl Like Me. Also, all three of those albums released to success there. And how did you get on with that? I hope you did well with it. I hope you enjoyed the information there. I waffled on a bit that time, didn't I? There's a new quiz coming next Sunday. Don't forget to donate if you enjoyed it, and follow me. And maybe you got on out of 50. I love to hear how people are going and a bit of feedback from it. Okay, as I plugged last time, don't forget I'm putting together a Christmas one that's coming up soon as well, in time for Christmas. And I will see you next Sunday with another one. Thanks for coming. Bye.